You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I am Robin Morgan. Today we have a sobering yet encouraging show for you. How can it be both, you do well to ask? Because Twila Moon is our special guest. Not only does she have one of the greatest names anywhere, but she is the Deputy Lead Scientist and Science Communication Liaison at the National Snow and Ice Data Center, which is part of the University of Colorado Boulder's Cooperative Institute for Research and Environmental Sciences, a global leader in earth science and quite a mouthful. She is a world-renowned scientist, specializing in the connections across ice, climate, ocean, and ecosystem, and bringing climate science insights to decision makers and business leaders. Her discovery science focuses on the Greenland ice sheet and the Arctic. Her pioneer research has been published on the cover of high-impact journals like Science and Nature, and her research has received extensive media coverage around the world on BBC, Associated Press, CNN, and many more. She is a sought-after speaker and has testified for Congress, is a lead editor for the Arctic Report Card, which is NOAA's high-impact annual report, and she served on the U.S. National Academic Polar Research Board, specializing in bringing climate science knowledge to the business and philanthropy communities, and assisting with insights needed to motivate impactful business solutions and to meet the urgency of the climate crisis. After completing degrees at Stanford and the University of Washington for her master's and PhD, she received a postdoctoral fellowship for research at University of Colorado and a U.S. National Science Foundation post-fellowship for work at the University of Oregon, and held a lecture position at the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom. And she returned to the National Snow and Ice Center in 2017. Her specialties are, wait for it, ice dynamics, ice sheet, ocean interaction, ice loss and freshwater flux, ice ecosystem connections, the hydrology of glaciers and ice sheets, glacier-sea ice interaction, observational science, research community organization, and science communication. Her current research includes data view mapping and analysis of Greenland, working on the polarization research projects in increasing polar knowledge and interest, and the Greenland Ice Sheet Ocean Science Network to facilitate scientific progress. Well, it just goes on and on and on. She's also plain terrific. She manages to have a sense of humor about all this, and she's awesome and hopeful. And we will be back with her in depth in just a moment after this brief message. Subscribe to this program on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at WMC Live, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/WMC Live, and visit us at WMCLive.com for more information about our show and our guests.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Twila Moon. What a great name. Dr. Moon. May I call you Twila?
Absolutely.
Okay, you call me Robin, and we're on better footing. Twila Moon is a great name, particularly for a geoscientist. I mean, it's the most fantastic of names. But welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to speak with you.
Oh, listen, you are where it is absolutely capital A at now. You know, I was looking at at your bio, and it's so impressive that I don't even completely, this is the first time I think this has ever happened on this program. No, I don't even completely know what to ask. I mean, I know terrible, terrible things are happening to the environment. We all know that. And of course, Trump doesn't seem to care. Um, I know that among the things that are happening is that chunks of the North and South Pole are breaking off and floating out to sea and raising sea levels and doing other hideous things. I know that Trump wants to buy Greenland, which is a nightmare. And I noticed that Greenland is one of your focuses. So I think I'm going to let you loose and basically just ask, maybe I'll start with the dynamics of the ice sheet, and how that interacts with the rest of water and what that does to the rest of us. But you take it where you want to go.
Oh, thank you so much, Robin. I agree. There is really so much to talk about right now regarding climate, women being champions of climate.
Yep,
So the threats to climate are, I think, also threats to women. And of
absolutely.
course, so much change happening in our frozen world, well, our Earth writ large, but also the what we would call the cryosphere, all things frozen in our Earth system. I actually began studying ice simply because I fell in love with ice, and I've
Mm,
now been studying Earth's big ice for a couple of decades or more. And as we think about this big ice, I'm thinking about the Greenland ice sheet, which covers the world's largest island, the Antarctic ice sheet, which of course covers a continent.
yeah.
And the changes in these places have impacts that reach from right next to them in their fjords at the coast all the way to those of us far afield. With the Greenland ice sheet, as with all glaciers actually around the world, the ice is in motion. It's actually part of the definition of being a glacier or an ice sheet. And so the ice in Greenland is in motion, and we lose ice from that ice sheet both through melting at the surface and at the bottom and at the edges where it meets the ocean, and then also breaking ice off and calving big icebergs into the ocean. And unfortunately, the Greenland ice sheet has now been losing ice every year since the late
Oh,
1990s. I know it's really difficult, actually, news to stomach, and this is functionally on human timescales irreversible ice loss.
oh my God.
So these are permanent changes for us on our human timescales in our ecosystems. People close to the Greenland ice sheet, those 57,000 or so Greenlanders, they're thinking about what this cold, fresh water means as it's coming into their fjords and changing the ecosystems for
Mm,
the fish and shrimp and seals and whales that they depend on for their food sources.
ah,
And as that cold, fresh water continues to travel through the ocean, it influences how the ocean itself is moving, and changes in the ocean circulation system, for example, in the Atlantic, can have these exacerbated effects with climate change. I really prefer Katherine Hayhoe's fantastic term, climate weirding, because I think that hits much
oh,
better on our day-to-day experience of
yeah.
climate change, which is this is weird weather. These are experiences unlike any that we have had or that people in generations before us have had. And so as we add this water to the Atlantic Ocean, we can actually see increasing cold, stormy weather in Northern Europe. We can see further exacerbation of sea level rise on the US East Coast because our
Yes.
oceans can pile water up in different places. And even so far away as the equator, these changes in ocean circulation can cause the equatorial rain belts to start to pull away from the equator, of course, creating wet conditions in places that are more used to dry and dry in places more used to wet. And then finally, probably the influence that most of us have in mind when we're thinking about loss of ice in Greenland or Antarctica is that actually, counter to what you might first guess, it's places far away from the ice that feel the biggest impact in sea level rise. Seas aren't rising equally around the world, and it's those places like the US Gulf Coast that are far from the Greenland ice sheet that feel the greatest impact from changes there. And that can mean salt water getting into your fresh water, drinking or agricultural water. It can mean flooding in places that have never experienced it before, including inland flooding, because rising oceans can change our groundwater. And of course, things like loss of land as we get coastal erosion or inundation of really important resources like our sewage and water systems or our transportation and metro systems.
Oh, oh my God. You know, I was beginning to tear up as you were talking because I once in my life when my kid was about I think 10 or 11, I was in Alaska and with him and we saw glaciers, and I saw them calve, and I saw the blue, which is the most exquisite heartbreak blue of a real inside of a glacier. And the beauty of it was just breathtaking. And the idea that that is meaning death now, and that is meaning more chaos and more. The fallout is almost infinite. It just keeps on falling out. How do you not despair?
I really understand this question, and I think it's actually so important for us to talk about it. I'm really, really glad you have asked it because there are two elements here. One, I've learned over time about what individual resilience means as we work on climate, as we work on taking action against climate. And this is about learning to have continually expanding wells for holding a wide diversity of emotions. So I do spend time crying. I spend time being angry and sad and depressed and frustrated and all of
Hmm.
those really difficult things that I think is often what we first imagine
Yeah.
when we hear those words climate change. Those are real and they're emotions that it's okay that they stay with me. And the way that I can hold those is because I really consciously put effort into also growing my well of positive emotions. And those are about connecting with people about this problem, talking about things and actions that we do undertake together that we can continue to expand in the future. It's about consciously taking in the actually very, very extensive good news about all of the organizations and cities and towns and countries and
Hmm.
individuals and communities that are doing positive climate work. It's about remembering that we have actually, as a globe, already bent the climate curve. We are headed to a better future than we were headed 20 years ago. And remembering that these things come together. I am listening now to the audiobook version of Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson's What If We Get It Right? I absolutely recommend listening to this. And I loved her conversation with Adam McKay, who produced the Don't Look Up movie, which was a blockbuster hit on Netflix, functionally about climate change.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, one of these secrets that shouldn't be secret and that we absolutely should be hollering from the rooftops is that if we get this right, we are looking at such a good future. This is a future where we have less instances of asthma and cancer because we're not putting the same polluting gases into our atmosphere. It's about one where we're coming together in a community because we know our best climate outcomes are those that involve collaboration and working together with other people. It's a future in which our buildings are healthy for us to be in and help protect us when there are heat waves because there will be more heat waves. So much of my hope and really positivity is because I consciously am aware and working on all of these good aspects as I'm daily looking at the challenges and the, as you say, somewhat heartbreaking changes that are also our reality.
Ugh. My dear friend and co-founder of the Women's Media Center, Jane Fonda, has become an environmental activist, and she claims that her best antidote for depression is activism, because if she's doing something, then she's doing something. Uh, and I agree completely. I agree. But it's amazing. It's amazing what you're talking about. And is this, yeah, I mean, just thinking cynically in my little head, is this why Trump wants Greenland? Um, is he thinking for a change ahead and 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 thinking of the migration of people, or the change of climate, so that Greenland becomes arable, and I mean, are the Greenlanders paranoid with good reason?
Well, I wish that I could say exactly what's in Trump's head, because then I feel like I might have a way of understanding how to demonstrate and make clear to him all of the incredible damage that he is causing right now in regards to tearing apart climate and research, and the damage that he's doing to our relationship with Greenland and Greenlanders. Um,
And everything.
yeah, I often hear that military and security and, of course, rare earth minerals, for example, which are part of our green transition, those are all things that are important to them in regards to Greenland. But we have had a very strong allyship with Denmark and with Greenland for quite a long time. We've had U.S. military bases in Greenland for decades. Greenlanders, I have relationships with many, and 6 months ago, they couldn't have been more excited about growing their relationship with the US, about the potential for US investment and capacity building in Greenland. But so much of that has been really ripped up by this fixation on owning Greenland. I know I really find it quite concerning. Of course, Trump changed the name of Denali back to Mount McKinley, McKinley being the president that really acquired the Alaska land. This sort of this idea of manifest destiny, of land ownership,
Yeah.
and really, in the case of Greenland, kind of this additional colonization. And Greenlanders have been working for decades towards a vision of independence,
Right.
and they have no interest in being colonized by yet another country. So I think that what he says as those reasons don't actually justify a need for ownership. We have good and strong relationships, and we can work on mining and capacity building and military and security with these allies. There's not a necessity for us to be the new rulers of Greenland.
No, of course not. I mean, and even Denmark says that. I mean, this is madness, demonstrated madness. But then his madness is by now legendary, uh, and uh, and the question is what to do about it. And what to do about his reaction to women's leadership of these movements, because there's a great deal of that. I'm sure you found it. Um, and and I mean, starting with Rachel, the great Rachel. The environment has been, quote, a woman's issue, or even before, and so that the obsession of women with saving the planet is not coincidental, and is not a latecomer, and is not a newbie on the scene, is it?
Yeah, you're correct. It's interesting. I sometimes spend time, imagining different realities, imagining different futures in a sort of what if, and how might that have worked way. And someone recently suggested that I read the book Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut. He wrote this in the mid 1980s, and I just did that. And there's a paragraph in the book that I cannot get out of my head. The idea is that this book is being told from a million years into the future by a narrator who knows these humans of a million years from today. And what is making them incredibly successful there in the Galapagos a million years from now is that their brains are not as big and their hands are not as dexterous. And
Ah,
this future narrator is creating a lot of commentary about humans of the modern day. And there's a paragraph in which he says something along the lines that one of the things our big brains have allowed us to do is to think that something like protecting the earth that we depend on could be a niche hobby along the lines of playing pool or going bowling or
ah,
knitting or writing
ah,
science fiction novels.
ah.
And this is, I'm thinking about it every day now since I finished that novel.
Yes, I'm going to go right out and read it. I don't read that much Vonnegut, and I should. I should again. But yes, that is decidedly. I mean, that and Ursula K. Le Guin, who has also been called a science fiction writer, and when she always said when they asked her what does she write, she would say literature. Um,
Hmm.
you know, but it's extraordinary because this is the nose on our face. I mean, this is home. This is the only place we can be, and and it's amazing to me how we go and begin. I mean, there's um, Elon Musk eager to colonize other worlds and to create other, systems and spread the affliction that we have as humans so far brought to this poor benighted planet. Um, Instead of fixing what is here, instead of, I mean, healing what is biodiversity or was about to be. I have a little garden in New York, which is an amazing contradiction in itself, an oxymoron. But the insistence of life to habitat, to grow, to root, to create, to continue is undeniable. And it takes an awful lot to squelch that. And the only person I've seen, or force that I've seen, trying to address that squelching um, has been the Republican Party and Trump this go round. Whereas, there are women, indigenous women. There was an 8,000 person march and recently of indigenous women for climate. There was, I mean, the the dedication, the quiet, steady dedication of water keepers and earth savers, and has been remarkable. Um, but it gets little attention. We try to give it attention on this program, but we can't quite keep up with Fox News, let's say. Um,
Yes, this is such a challenge. A group that I've been working with recently that's been such a gift in my life is called Daughters for Earth. This is co-founded by Jody Allen and Zainab Salbi.
mm,
Just one of the most inspiring people, and they are supporting and funding women on the front lines of protecting the earth and the environment. And I have just been with them and one of my other amazing colleagues, glaciologist Heidi Silvestri, and we've
mm.
launched a fund for female climate scientists.
Oh,
Um,
that's
and this
great.
is all about supporting women climate scientists, communicating what we know, communicating what is possible, bringing climate science to everyone, to our communities, to decision makers, to those who need this information now, because
Yes.
our climate is already changed. This change is going to be ongoing, but also because we have these incredible opportunity spaces right now to do better, to attend to these things that have been, lacking attention. And there's these incredibly strong forces right now pushing against us. But I think we must take it as a message that we are doing something right, that there is a need, a push for why they're doing this, and that it speaks to the differences that we're making. And all of these things are so interconnected, food, health, community health, our economies, how our buildings and infrastructure work together are all
Right.
intrinsically connected to the things that are causing climate change and also causing difficulties with health and our environment. But also it means that the actions that we take, the ways we can move forward, can address many of these things at once. They can create community while also improving our health, while also giving us a better climate future outcome. And I know for me, for example, this work with Daughters for Earth and the Female Climate Scientist Fund has been such a balm, such a reminder that so many of us are working towards this positive future that will even be positive for those who are pushing against it.
Yes, yes. Years ago, when Dr. Margaret Mead, the late Dr. Margaret Mead, was giving a lecture, I went to this lecture, and when it was a Q&A, I raised my hand and I asked her what she thought about the women's movement, because I just sort of worshipped her because she was the first. I was like a teenager, and she was the first person that I had ever encountered who made clear that people could opt to live in many different ways. Oh, that was a brainstorm. And they could choose, and they could choose better. And I asked her what she thought of the women's movement, which was just starting at that time, this go-round, many go-rounds. And her face darkened, and to my surprise, she said, "Well, I have very mixed emotions." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I believe that there will be such a mobilization against it that that it goes to the heart of change. And I believe that the mobilization against it," and I said, "You mean by men?" "By men," she said, "and boys." And yes, but by men and boys in established power, that they will see this as the greatest threat that has ever been to their entrenched power, and they will do anything and everything, uh, including a lot of blood, to stop it. And I thought, my God. And I thought to myself, well, she must be wrong on this itself. And it is interesting because they have gotten away with so much already because we didn't know that they were coming, or we did know, but we warned people, but it wasn't enough warning, or so many ors. And also because the cowardice on the other side of this is so just masterful.
Mhm.
And here we are, bunch of women all over the world, with our grass hats and our hearts in the right place and ready to work. And I believe that we will do it. I mean, I would not be able to get up in the morning if I didn't believe that. But I've often thought of her in that way, and that perhaps she was right. Perhaps this is the the final, if there ever is a final encounter between these forces. Because, and I don't mean anything as simple as good, bad, evil. I mean, I mean something quite profound, something that is thanatos, that is a love of death, that is a love of decay, and as opposed to eros, which is not the root of erotic as much as it is the root of love. I mean, I just see it as a very different struggle, and that women are on the right side. I'm afraid to. I'm not afraid to say outright that women are really on the right side.
Yes. I think there's one of the things, there was a study many years ago that I sometimes remember, that it was about some of the things that an earth scientist thinks differently about as compared to the general public. And I'll be honest, I think it's also things that you see thought differently about by indigenous people and
That's
by
right.
many women leaders. And it's things about the connectedness
Mm-hmm.
of earth and all things on it. It's about understanding many, many time scales, being able not to just think about today or the next few years or the next decade, but actually expand to think about hundreds and thousands of years.
Yes.
It's about understanding the nuance and the breathing and the power of life, many of these different things. One of those places I sometimes allow myself to daydream is imagining the world now if it had been run by women all along.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that one. I'm on that one too. Yeah, yeah. It's a very different scenario. And and I'm not completely sure why, and I'm not completely sure whether I have to know why, but it is a felt reality, and a very important one, I think. Well, you are a dream of a guest. And I didn't get into all the specifics about Greenland water and my God, I mean, I'm just looking at the papers that come with you. They're so very impressive. Um,
Oh, thank you so much.
and Greenland freshwater production and all that you've done bringing together community and ordinary folks with this science is very important as well, because if people don't understand it, they can't, if you can't see it, you can't be it. If you can't experience it or imagine it, at least, you can't achieve it. And I think that the more that people do begin to understand, the more they will cherish and love this little, spaceship we are on called Earth. And
Yeah, I agree. And I hope that more and more people are learning enough that they can envision the positive future that we can move into. I think so many people are tempted to stick their head in the sand or imagine that climate is only going to be about difficult and hard times ahead,
right.
but there's so much for us to move positively together into a future in which we are better able to prepare, we're reducing risks, and we're caring for each other, and we're caring for all the parts of this planet that makes every element of our lives possible.
And that's so exciting. That is really,
Exactly.
that is so, that gets your blood going. I mean, that gets your, oh, well, okay, we can begin to think, we can begin to plan, we can begin to hope. And in that lies the future. So I expect to see you out there, um, I don't know, doing some marvelous things with Greenland, but also doing some marvelous things with ice and big ice and with water, which are the core of life-giving beauty and health. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. You not only enlivened the podcast, but you enlivened me. You enlivened the host, and
Oh, my delight.
I'm deeply grateful to you, and I'm sure our listeners all will be as well. And we'll keep an eye out for. Say the name of that group again.
Daughters for Earth.
Daughters for
Yes,
Earth.
they're doing so much good work, and I would really encourage all of your listeners to check them out.
All right. Well, we will do that. My listeners tend to listen with a pencil poised in one hand. They're very activist, and they're in 111 countries, and they're all around the world, and they're mostly, but not all, women, and they're fiercely, wonderfully engaged. So
Yes, fantastic. And every one of them a necessity.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So thank you again, And I hope you'll come back and talk to us again about more that you're doing with the great ice. Okay?
I would be delighted to do that, Robin. This conversation has been such a gift.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Take care now. I don't want you getting chilblains.
Thank you.
And it ends on laughter, defiant and celebratory. I'll return in just a moment with some fighting words. The Women's Media Center, founded in 2005 by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and myself, is a progressive, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to make women visible and powerful in media. You can learn more about the WMC at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Bourbon Pecan Pie. Those are fighting words. Cecile Richards, a major figure in American politics and a gravely staunch advocate for women's reproductive rights, died on January 20th, 2025, at the age of 67. It's taken me all these months to write about it. Her death followed an 18-month battle with glioblastoma, which is an aggressive form of brain cancer. She was diagnosed with this devastating disease in the summer of 2023. Glioblastoma, known also as glioblastoma multiforme, GBM, is a fast-growing cancer that originates in the brain or the spinal cord, characterized by its rapid spread, and unfortunately, there is no known cure. Treatments exist to alleviate symptoms and potentially slow the progression of the disease, but the prognosis remains challenging. Cecile received her glioblastoma diagnosis in the summer of 2023, and she was on a family vacation in Maine. She initially noticed some difficulty in writing, a symptom that prompted her and her husband, Kirk Adams, to return to New York and seek medical attention at NYU. She publicly revealed her diagnosis in January of the following year and was only 66 years old at the time of the diagnosis. Now, her contributions have been widely recognized and celebrated, but she's primarily known for her work on reproductive rights. Her influence on reproductive rights, however, extended to other social and political arenas. She began her career as a labor organizer, advocating for the rights of service workers. She also served as Deputy Chief of Staff for former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, demonstrating her political acumen and commitment to progressive causes. Her dedication to voter turnout initiatives through organizations like America Votes underscored her belief in the power of civic engagement. And her range of activism, which is startlingly broad, reflects a deep commitment to social justice and equality. Richards' contributions have been widely recognized and celebrated. She was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in November of 2024, which is the highest civilian honor in the United States. And, she was named by Time magazine one of the most influential 100 people in the world in 2011 and 2012. But beyond all of her awards, she showed, it's hard to speak of her. She showed a rapid dedication. And beyond the formal awards, individual people and organizations have paid tribute over and over and over to her life and work. Make Trouble, which is her memoir, serves as a testament to her belief in the power of activism and encourages future generations to stand up for their beliefs. She was indefatigable. Her emphasis on building a strong and inclusive movement, particularly through her work with supermajority, has created a framework for continued advocacy and action. While the fight for reproductive rights and other social justice issues faces, to say the least, ongoing challenge, her legacy provides inspiration and guidance for those of us who continue the work she championed. And her unwavering dedication to these causes, even in the face of personal adversity, especially in the face of that, serves as a powerful example of the impact that a single individual can have on the entire world. Now, glioblastoma is the most aggressive type of cancer that begins in the brain. It originates in astrocytes, star-shaped cells that support nerve cells. And it's characterized by rapid growth, and these cells are now considered grade 4 astrocytomas, the highest grade assigned due to their highly malignant nature. And they're difficult to treat because of their tendency to spread quickly and to infiltrate surrounding brain tissue. So she went and underwent a combination of treatments for her glioblastomas. Her initial treatment involved surgery to remove the tumor, followed by radiation therapy and chemotherapy. And then she participated in a clinical trial, and specific details regarding the type of chemotherapy used and the dosage were not publicly disclosed. But the standard treatment protocol for glioblastoma typically involves maximal safe surgical resection, followed by concurrent radiation therapy and chemotherapy. She reported experiencing some side effects from her treatment, including impacts on her motor skills, speech, and ability to write. But despite these challenges, she expressed a positive outlook. God, did she ever. And she continued to work on advocacy efforts related to abortion rights. She co-founded Charlie. Charlie is a chat box designed to provide accurate information to those seeking abortions, and Abortion in America, a platform for sharing stories about the impact of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And her active engagement in these projects demonstrated resilience and determination to face her illness and to share it, to make it transparent, to add it to the list of things that she wouldn't be secretive about. Her legacy extends way beyond her leadership at Planned Parenthood. Her work continues to inspire many, many, many others on reproductive rights, access to quality health care, and now, in general, medical issues. And her decision to publicly disclose the glioblastoma diagnosis just months after receiving it marked the beginning of a new chapter in her advocacy. Rather than retreat from the public eye, she chose to use her platform to raise awareness about both her illness and the causes she championed. Was she busy. Even while undergoing treatment, she leveraged social media platforms to share updates on her health, to express gratitude for the support she received. And all of this transparency humanized her struggle with glioblastoma. And it provided a powerful example of strength. She burned with rage, not with bitterness and irony, that one of the cancers on which the Trump regime had withdrawn a lot of government funding was glioblastoma. Because it was so rare, you see, there was no real need to address it. She called me when I had sent her a note about the glioblastoma when I first learned about it. And she rang, and she was her usual sunny, irascible, funny self. She recognized the urgency increasing for access to safe and legal abortions. She dedicated her efforts and rededicated them to ensuring individuals had information and resources. She involved herself with working with Supermajority. As I've said, she co-founded it, and she mobilized women and advocates for policy changes. And oh my God, what didn't she do? And then of course there was Charlie, which is a chatbot, and which tells women where they are and what they can do in the face of Roe v. Wade. And she also drew enormous strength from family and personal connections. Her family played a crucial role in her life. It always had, and it provided unwavering emotional support throughout her illness. The birth of a grandchild, her grandchild, during this period brought her enormous joy. She spoke often about the importance of family and the inspiration that she had drawn from her mother, who was the former Texas governor, Ann Richards, the great Ann Richards. That family network served as the foundation for her resilience and enabled her to continue her advocacy work, despite the challenges posed by her illness. And she found solace and inspiration in her love for New Orleans jazz. Oh, did she love jazz, man, which her family highlighted as a reflection of her vibrant spirit. But that last conversation we had, that was about pies. Yep, pies. We decided, I had asked her what she was doing, and she said, actually, I'm baking a pie. And I said, really? One of your usual? And she said, yeah, one a special one. Bourbon pecan. Oh my God, I said, I can smell it here in New York. And we laughed, and I told her about Grace Paley's love of baking pies, and how when she made poems, nobody came to her and said, that was a great little poem. Why don't you make more? But when she made a pie, they always said, why didn't you make more? And we laughed, and she said, what are you doing? And I said, well, right now I'm writing, but yesterday I baked. And she said, yeah, what'd you bake? And we talked about baking. I told her bread, in my case. But we decided that we were the secret, hidden Martha Stewarts of the women's movement, baking away at our little ovens, baking bread to rise, baking pies that would be warm, soft, and delicious, with great fragrances. Baking revolution. I miss you, Cecile. We all miss you and your leadership very much. And that's our show for this week. You can follow me on social media at The Robin Morgan. You can check out my blog at robinmorgan.net, and you can find my new novel, Parallax, and my just-out new book of poems, Harvesting Darkness, wherever books are sold. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. Executive producer, as well as founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. WMC president and co-executive producer for this program, Julie Burton. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Join us next time on Women's Media Center Live.